I kind of want to watch this because I saw people reacting to it, and I wondered like, what does this even mean? The loss of the mid-core Yu-Gi-Oh player.
Hey guys, Paul here. So today I wanted to talk about a Yu-Gi-Oh phenomenon that I have been observing a lot more in the last couple of years. It's something that I also alluded to on Twitter, but I felt like bringing it to a full discussion in a video.
What
would be
is
really
a
good thing.
mid-core?
So basically, it's the sort of loss of the mid-core Yu-Gi-Oh player. And what I mean by that is this. So competitive Yu-Gi-Oh right now actually feels like it has kind of hit a bit of a fever pitch. Like people seem to be really enjoying, grinding the competitive YCS scene more now than ever. I see a lot of videos that are, kind of these niche, nitty gritty, getting into the highly incredible specifics of like combo lines, where to use hand traps, things like that. And people seem to be enjoying the Malice and Ryziel format. And for the players that travel to these YCS events, playtest rigorously, they can afford the best cards, and that's not really an issue for them. They seem to be really enjoying competitive Yu-Gi-Oh right now, and this is good. I want to be clear that I think that this is a good thing. They're having fun with competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, and that's
A
great.
healthy
I'm not
competitive
saying
scene is
there's anything
always
wrong with that.
is always a good
On the
thing.
other end, you've also got a lot of people who recently have been embracing older formats. Things like GOAT and Edison format come to mind. Some people also like to play Toss or Hat format as well. But basically these older snapshot formats. And you see it a lot, especially in content creation now. A lot more people are doing, some sort of a spin the wheel, wheeled GOAT, wheeled Edison. It's kind of expanded to include things like cubes and draft as well. And again, that's really
Edison,
cool.
our best format.
Take a dive back into these nostalgic old Yu-Gi-Oh times is great. There tends to be a lot of sort of popular viewership among casual and nostalgic fans there. So if you're a content creator, that's great. We did our Retro Rivals series with the Retro Pack, and that was a lot of fun. And
Old
you see a
formats
lot of
are honestly
content
really
from
great
that end of the
for like
spectrum as well.
content.
But what it feels like there isn't a lot of is a lot of interest and sort of almost maybe support for the mid-core Yu-Gi-Oh player, I call it. What is the mid-core Yu-Gi-Oh player exactly? Well, basically, this is this player who, they've played Yu-Gi-Oh for a really long time. They play at locals most weeks. They've been to a few regionals, and they do want to win, but they also kind of want to win with their favorites. They get enthusiastic or excited about anime decks or just some of their favorite decks getting new support. And even if their favorite deck isn't like super duper YCS level viable, they still want to do the best they can with it. And they want to find content about that. They want to find places to play those decks. And what I'm basically finding is happening is that these players have been sort of neglected a little bit and are now migrating to other card games or just quitting Yu-Gi-Oh in some cases. So this past weekend, we went to Bandai Card Games Fest. It's basically the nationals that they have for all the different Bandai games. That's One Piece, Union Arena, Digimon, Battle Spirits, and I feel like I'm forgetting something else. Dragon Ball, Super Fusion World. And so basically, like,
when we quitting
Yu-Gi-Oh,
Yu-Gi-Oh, probably
really
never.
Big fans, and that was cool. And they would oftentimes tell us, hey, I'm a really big fan of you guys. I don't like play Yu-Gi-Oh anymore.
This is probably us.
Content. And that's a nice.
I mean, no,
compliment
as
to
you
hear, but it
guys,
is a little
I'm
bit
sweaty.
worrying because it means that these are players who, in some way or another, got burned from Yu-Gi-Oh or just disinterested, and they migrated to a card game that they maybe feel better suits their needs. So
I get where he's coming
what are
from,
these
though.
needs exactly? Well, I go to a lot of conventions as it happens, and
We're
I
watching
go to them
the
almost,
loss
I'd say,
of
like,
the
more than I
mid-core
go to
Yu-Gi-Oh
YCS events
player.
now. I go to your New York Comic Con, your Anime Expos, DreamCon, stuff like that. I like meeting fans and just other card game players at these events and talking to them and getting some of their real lived experiences with Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever else. Like, why did they quit Yu-Gi-Oh? Like, why do they enjoy my content sometimes, but still like they don't really enjoy playing Yu-Gi-Oh? And some of the reasons that I oftentimes hear are things like getting priced out of the game, the power curve of the game, just kind of leaving their favorite decks behind. Maybe they quit because of pendulums or link monsters, or it's just something to do with Konami, right? There's a bunch of different things people will say about that. And I think that all those reasons are fairly valid to varying degrees. Like, this is gonna, of course, from person to person, people quit at different times for different reasons. I'm not saying it always falls in one of those
and I feel that
categories. There could be other reasons why somebody might quit. But I think that what Yu-Gi-Oh seems to kind of have really lost at the end of the day, this is just in my opinion, you can weigh in, is it's just lost the middle ground. It feels like we are no longer there's no longer space for the player who just wants to play. Here's an example I've been giving, Six
Okay.
Samurai. They recently got support in Rage of the Abyss. And it was some pretty cool support cards, right? A couple new synchros and like other things like that. And they're even going to be getting more support cards in the next couple sets. But the thing is, Six Samurai don't fit into either of the camps that I described earlier.
Yeah.
So basically, Six Sams aren't really going to be beating Malice and Ryziel. I know that you can optimistically speak and say like, oh, well, maybe the perfect Six Samurai player can do it. Sure, cool. But I think that for the average player, that it's kind of accepted and known that like Six Sams aren't going to be winning the next
Yeah,
YCS.
they're not.
Also, though, Six Sams
I actually
can't be
completely
played
understand
in
where he's
Edison
coming
format,
from.
right? These new Six Samurai cards. And I think what it is this sort of weird late stage Yu-Gi-Oh! I almost want to call it. That was actually a video I wanted to make as well, which is like people aren't really opening packs to just get cards and trade them. They're opening packs specifically to get the cards they need.
Yeah.
There's a lot more information and knowledge out there.
I don't
so,
think
like, decks
trading card
optimized
games
out
are
the
really
gate.
trading
Oftentimes
card
we kind of
games
know what the best
anymore.
stuff is going to be. And also, there's less trading because people are not as interested in buying sealed product and opening it and then like maybe trading some of the ultra rare Mermail or Six Samurai cards or Shark cards that they pulled in Rage the Abyss. They just want to get their Fuwalos, get their Impulse, and they will buy it if they need to. Or if they are interested in building those other decks.
I just feel like, right? It's always been that way. The thing about it is that in most games, it kind of is like that, but the power creep is too big, where it's hard to bridge the gap. Cause like, remember, years ago, what's his name? Cien won Street Fighter 4 with Rose. Someone who was like so like mid to bottom tier, but he won the tournament, beat out all the fucking Kens, beat out all the fucking Ryus, right? You can't really do that with Yu-Gi-Oh! The gap between like a really like a mid tier deck versus something that's top tier, right? It's just so different. Yeah, and the power creep is gonna get higher and higher because they need something that'll counter the existing strong deck. They need something to get over that bit. You know? It's just gonna get stronger and stronger, and then you're gonna have stuff like Six Samurai, Sue Ships, all that shit being left in the back. You can win, it's just really hard, and it's really rare. I could, rip the Numeron Bozo at your locals, yeah. I could, be like, oh yeah, I'm very optimistically gonna win against Tenpai with, Sue Ships. But that's only if the Tenpai player bricks. And I have, a billion fucking hand traps. You know? The difference in, the power creep is just too difficult. That it's, it's a bit... I wouldn't say it's unrealistic. It's just a bit too difficult. I'm not gonna lie. If there were a random upset, remember when Jeff Leonard won against I can't remember what with his Exodia deck. If there's a random upset like that, it's such a fun thing to watch. But it's so rare, you know? It's so fucking rare. I completely get exactly where he's coming from. And no matter how much you love a deck, everybody has a limit to which they can stomach, right? When it comes to losing. So I would happily walk into a YCS and try to cope as hard as I can with Sword Soul, right? For years and years and years. But eventually it'll get to a point where it's okay, the deck that I love sucks. And I hate losing. So you know? I feel aiming for a YCS, honestly, is a bit unrealistic for your average Yu-Gi-Oh! Player, right? Because it's kind of the same logic as when people play a video game and they try to turn pro. It's unrealistic. Not even the initial startup costs are stupid. It's just, you're happy to be okay, let's put it in league terms. If I play a league, I'm happy to get to Challenger, but I'm not gonna sit here and be oh, dude, you're gonna catch me fighting Faker, you know? I'm happy reaching the highest tier, but I'm not gonna fucking, I'm not gonna fucking 1v1 fake or anything like that. Like, if I'm playing it just to be happy, there are things like Aram that I can play where it's less stressful and I still get, like, my League experience. I still get, like, my League of Legends, like, game experience. You know? Like, yeah, Pokemon is probably one of the better games where you can kind of play whatever you want and still get, like, get a relatively good experience. The thing about Yu-Gi-Oh right now is that there's only, like, really, like, two paths, right? Either you play it specifically for nostalgia, you cope and play your Edison decks, or you go hyper sweaty. There's no other real avenue to, like, enjoy your pet decks. But at the same time, it is, anyone can just go to, like, a locals, anyone can just go to a locals and play. But there's no way to predict that the person you play against at a locals isn't gonna pull out the sweatiest motherfucking deck known to man also. So then that also kind of kills your vibe, because I'm just here to play, Sword Soul, I'm just here to enjoy. But then I play against, like, Malice Ryzel at, like, my locals, and I'm like, ugh. And the next guy is also playing that shit, and I'm like, ugh. And then the next guy is playing fucking Stun, and I'm like, ugh. I'm going home because this isn't fun. So it's like, I don't know. I honestly feel like one of the things that Master Duel needs to do is they need to create, like, a casual mode. And I know they did. I know they created, like, an unranked mode. They need to ban certain decks from appearing there. That would be a little bit more fun. But as of right now, the only way to really, like, ensure something like that is to go to, like, fucking viewer duels or, like, duel rooms, So it's called a rookie. Hey, I played against so many lab decks in rookie when I was doing my fucking Masochist challenge. If you could guarantee me a mode, right, where I wouldn't have to meet fucking, all the tenpai, all that bullshit. If you could guarantee a mode where I wouldn't have to meet the meta decks, I could still stomach a bit of stun. I get where he's coming from though. Like, the people who want to play their pet decks have no appropriate place to play their pet decks. Like, the thing about it is that
they'll just buy the single.
It's just there's nowhere to actually play
going on. And like I said,
and
the
there's no
content kind of
trading.
seems to be skewing more towards the hyper casual, nostalgic end of things. So what do you do when you are just a
contagious,
mid-core
probably.
Yu-Gi-Oh player interested in these sort of middle of the road decks, and there's nothing there for you? There are still Yugi tubers and stuff who are making, a deck profile for these things or kind of combo bids for these things.
Oh my god, the deck profile is crazy.
Say that that's not happening at all or sort of discredit their work. It's just that it seems like
I'll buy a
some
jacket.
of the buzz around
I'll buy a hoodie. I'll
lots
buy
of
a jacket.
archetypes getting supported that I felt a few years ago. It felt visceral and tangible. It's not there anymore, and it's really tough to describe. And so that's why I'm kind of putting this discussion out there, because I think that you guys tend to have a good way with words in the comments. Sometimes people
would you want Suships to be stealing though? I think they're better decks.
Explain kind of
I like
what
it,
is
but
that I
it's
feel
not
like
like the
I'm
be all
seeing,
end all.
What
the fuck is an Udi? This is so comfy looking.
The bigger issue maybe, which is that Yu-Gi-Oh is sort of bleeding players to a lot of these Bandai games. They are oftentimes seen as more accessible. They are oftentimes a little bit more affordable. Sometimes they have, like, better pricing and things like that. But I think that just the general thing is that the mid-core Yu-Gi-Oh player feels more seen and more recognized, or maybe more cared for by these Bandai games, and it could also be Magic or Lorcana or something else.
I hope you guys know now that I'm just gonna exist in, like, a onesie.
So yeah, I want people to weigh in. How do you feel about this? Do you think that this is a problem? Like, what's changing here? What's caused it? I don't want this to be one of these videos where it's like, Yu-Gi-Oh is dying, right? I'm not saying that Yu-Gi-Oh is dying or it's dead, but I think that it's a phenomenon where, like, Yu-Gi-Oh is changing, and I think that maybe Konami should be aware of this. Maybe they're planning something. I think that they're still need.
What deck would you use as a benchmark for casual decks? Only weaker or only equal or weaker than it's allowed? It would be Sword Soul. I think Sword Soul's kind of middle of the road if you ban. I think, no, actually, you don't even need to ban Protoss. I think Sword Soul is very much middle of the road. The only reason why I say with the Protoss in it, it's still okay, is because I think it's not terribly difficult to out Protoss. Unless you're playing something like Branded. But in our hypothetical, you bounce that bitch. Yeah, if a deck doesn't do something a little unfair, it's pretty much unplayable. So it's like, if we put that into consideration, right, we all need to internally take an L. We all need to internally, honestly, take an L. Because every deck is gonna be unfair. It's just how much of it we can stomach, you know? Even stuff like what is it? You know, the whole gift card bad reactness to Mochi thing? Like, I wouldn't say it's unfair if, let's say, they were going second, right? But it still kind of sucks. Like, I wouldn't say it's like the hardest like combo in the world, but it still kind of sucks when it happens to you. It still kind of blows if, like, you know, you get them like going first. Yeah, the one card combo problem is the biggest issue. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the thing about it is that, like, I feel like decks that are incredibly consistent annoy me, but at the same time, I too would play those decks. So, you know, it's kind of on me. I like the fact that it's consistent, but it also annoys me because it's consistent. You know how, like, most of my decks, right? Because I'm kind of shit at deck building, like, most of my decks, you can kind of stop me if you Ash Blossom one time, or if you, like, Imperm one time. I'm like, okay, well, you know, that's it. That's my turn. I'm done. Pass, go next. It's like the decks that, like, even if I throw like 50 fucking like hand traps at, and they can still keep going, damn, that sucks. You know what I mean? That kind of sucks. It's not that I hate it. Okay, the fact that, like, there are cards that can do stuff like, you know, on the field, from the hand, in the graveyard, like, bro, pick a lane. Just, like, pick a lane, bro. Okay, let's finish the video.
Like a mid-power level format where somebody can play new support cards for their Sharks.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Or the Madolche, or whatever, because of...
Actually, if you really think about it, right? When new boxes come out, and there's new support for different cards that are announced, but nobody cares about it because they only want the expensive cards, isn't that kind of sad?
Those can't be played in Edison, but, like, still with a power level where they're viable and don't have to deal with, like, you know, the current top tier decks. That's, like, one of the big things. There's other stuff too. I think that Yu-Gi-Oh! Could still use League systems. I still think the mixed rarity system can help with kind of enthusiasm around buying sealed product. But all in all, yeah, I don't want this to be like a Yu-Gi-Oh's dying, abandon all hope, jump ship. This isn't even me, to be clear. I'm not playing any of these other new, like, Bandai games and stuff like that. All right, like, I still just play Yu-Gi-Oh! Pretty much exclusively, and I still like it. I like modern Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't mind, like, playing it, but I just think that these are. I've heard enough testimony now that it's a little bit worrying and maybe concerning. So yeah, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. And I need to go now because the sunlight is just blaring at my face over here, and I don't even know how I made it through this video, but
bro,
I did. So yeah, weigh in the comments.
Buy a curtain.
I'll see you guys in the next one.
Buy a curtain. Let's see. Remember Jesse Cotton stream and chat just absolutely roasting, shit talking his opponent's decks. As a midcore player, that thing kind of really shoots me down. People just need to accept that others might want to experience the game differently for them. I agree, but I feel like if somebody, like, plays, like, really, really weirdly, I should be allowed to roast them a little. The orange light makes him look very handsome. You know, I do agree. It's the what do they call it? Golden hour, right? Where, like, the sun hits your skin in a way where it, like, looks really nice, right? I think that's what it's called. I don't know. Yeah, enhances everyone. That's what it's called. Mid-tier formats are really needed at this point. There's so many cards, and even new cards are good unless you compare in meta. Also, meta decks have gotten so strong, mid-tier decks don't even get to play the game. Most people just want to play. Yeah, that's what I was saying. So it's like they should create, like, a mode where it's easier for mid-tier players to, like, fight against other mid-tier players. Cause, like, if you were to tell me, oh yeah, go ahead, play Sword Soul, all of your opponents are gonna be Tenpai, I'd be like, ugh. For what it's worth, the ambiance with the orange sunlight in your face looks super awesome. Oh my god. Damn. What the Yu-Gi-Oh players with the Riz?